Tonight's You and Your Money is brought to you by the Parliamentary Registration Department, the Bank of the Bahamas, BTC, Petro Express, Keys Bahamas Realty, and Clean as Clear. At the recently held 19th Annual Grand Bahama Business Outlook, the focus was breaking barriers, promoting success. Mr. Hubert Edwards, Chief Business Development Officer at the Bank of the Bahamas, spoke on the topic, Freeport Grand Bahama, a center for excellence.
What I'm going to attempt to do is to discuss something which is possible. It may not be all out there at this point in time, but what is possible. I want you to start to rethink this whole arrangement, which is Freeport and Grand Bahama. I want you to consider what economic benefit can accrue from the port on a national basis. We must start to rethink Grand Bahama, but we also must do this from a strategic perspective. We need to ensure that strategic thinking and strategic planning goes into the whole redefining of a strategy. And importantly, this strategy must be national. I say to you as a charge that it is time for us to be deliberate, to be pragmatic in our approaches. The actions that we take must be distilled through one single filter, and that filter is what is best and only what is best for the greater good of all the Bahamas. Nothing more, nothing less. In my view, this island where we are today and its industrial ambitions, if they are properly harnessed, have a great potential for this place to become a center of excellence. Before we get into the whole idea of a center of excellence, let me tell you what are some of the issues as I see it. The Freeport arrangement has underperformed its promise and its original vision from the late 40s. And that was of capitalizing on the strategic geographical location of this island. There's no question that there's been some achievements, but the relatively simplicity of having a straight flow through transshipment center is not enough. It's less than it ought to be and that it can be. The national benefit, and I underline national, the national benefit and impact which should accrue from Freeport as an economic zone is not very evident. As a matter of fact, on the contrary, there's national skepticism, which have served to impact policy and I think slow down the timeliness of decision making, making it rather difficult for there to be consensus in order for us to leverage the full value of the Freeport. There's a serious and increasing economic blight occurring in the wider Grand Bahama communities, West End, East End, 8 Mile Rock. The blight is significantly impacting the growth of the economy and it's rendering residents less capable of capitalizing on any value which would result as a result of spillovers from the Port Authority itself. The island as an industrial center, in my mind, is underpopulated. And this retards the development of complementary microeconomics, because within an economy, there are sub-economies which help to drive the overall future or success of the island economy. The strategies of pursuing on one hand tourism and on the other an industrial ambition needs to be clarified. While they can work together, I put that to you, they can work together, they need clarification. There need to be a strategic approach taken so that they can leverage the unique assets of the country or the island from a touristic point of view, but also to realize the industrial desires that we are seeking. Freeport, a Freeport, has to be seen as a strategic asset for the country. I repeat that. It must be seen as a strategic asset for the country. It must add value beyond a small grouping, and it must become competitive vis-a-vis other economic zones within the region or within the Americas. But what of this idea of a center of excellence? The question for us to contemplate, therefore, is how does Grand Bahama, Freeport included, approach this desired state of being a standard bearer of excellence? How do we realize a robust industrial environment where there are identifiable centers of excellence? How does Grand Bahama deliver on its promise? Here are a few ideas I want you to contemplate. One, all of Grand Bahama, every single inch of Grand Bahama, need to become a vibrant ecosystem of entrepreneurial energy, growing and developing business which are complementary to the operations of the Freeport era. There should be an openness to embracing technology and ideas which, when properly shepherded and developed, can easily be transferred to the rest of the country. There needs to be a clear national decision to become a center of excellence. For example, there is ship repair and transshipment here. Again, the decision should be bolstered by a real serious thrust, I think, in light and mid-level manufacturing. Of course, this will require some fundamental look at certain agreements which are in place. It will also require a look at certain national policies, immigration, for example. But if we are going to realize the strategic intent, these are some of these things that we need to do. By targeting and encouraging Grand Bahama to become an industrial center, the government will, for example, focus on facilitating the reduction of costs of energy, labor inputs, and other costs. Through carefully designed incentives geared at attracting specific industrial business and also shepherding other type of business, Grand Bahama then becomes an experimental laboratory from which those which are proven, those business systems which are proven, can be strategically exported to the rest of the country and to spawn other smaller entrepreneurial efforts. To be effective and to be sustainable, there must be ample provision of incubation of local entrepreneurial businesses. If the Bahamas is going to grow and make effort to expand, if the Bahamas is going to grow, it must make effort to expand its entrepreneurial class. If the country is to accrue maximum benefit, then we must have innovative local companies growing side by side with foreign entities. This approach will ensure that on one hand, there's vibrancy, and then on the other hand, there's sustainability. We have to start to be thinking in a disruptive way. The same old is not going to hold forever. An idea of this disruptive thinking is, if you will, and I said to you earlier, dream with me, differential taxation. Why is it cannot there be a corporation tax applicable in Grand Bahama outside of the realm of the port? Some persons will say there's no corporation tax in the Bahamas. I put it to you that yes, there is. It's zero. Why can't we change that number?
You and Your Money will continue after these messages.
In order to vote, you must register.
But listen, you cannot vote if you don't register.
Yes, purple thumbs. Mark your X, get your ballots, cast your vote.
But first, you must register.
You must register.
I registered. Did you?
Did you register yet? I did.
You cannot vote if you don't register. Registration is easy. Multiple locations to register, day and evening. Register now.
Your early morning television show coming to you live every Monday and Friday. It's Bahamas at Sunrise. Advertise your business or product here where the conversation is informative, entertaining, and provocative. Trust me, only good things happen to you and your business when you advertise here on Bahamas at Sunrise. For more information on how to advertise, contact Margaret Albury at the Counselors at 322-7505 or 06.
Do you have a goal in mind but need help sticking to a savings plan? BOB has a solution for you. Introducing BOB's Goal Assured Savings Plan. You set the goal and we help you achieve it. You'll benefit from structured savings, competitive interest, and special discounts on loans, plus your full amount is insured for the term of your plan. So go ahead, set your goals and achieve them with BOB's Goal Assured Savings Plan. Only at BOB, your bank of solutions.
You are watching You and Your Money, highlights of the 19th Annual Grand Bahama Business Outlook. And now, we conclude the presentation given by Mr. Hubert Edwards, Chief Business Development Officer, Bank of the Bahamas, who spoke on the topic, Freeport Grand Bahama, a Center for Excellence.
Why can't we then attract companies from outside who would want to take advantage of tax treaties, tax exchange treaties? And you give them a timeline and you say, okay, here's a sunset, 15 or 20 years. You go in, you build, and then you transfer the technology. I think we need to start rethinking ourselves. We need to start thinking in a fundamental way which shift the paradigm. Of course, again, there are policies and strategies and rules and agreements which need to be looked at. But like I said, we have to rethink, and we must not be afraid to be disruptive. Otherwise, we are not going to move forward. As Agatha Marcel said earlier, we have to start to shift in some of the mindsets. Freeport as an economic zone needs to be seen from a national perspective. It needs to be seen as a business, and it needs to be seen as a business operating in a competitive arena. We know that that arena is global, and it necessarily means that there must be active strategic auditing. We need to sit from time to time and ask ourselves, how competitive are we against other regions, and how can we become a value leader? At the end of the day, the whole idea here is that the Freeport or Grand Bahama in its expanded state, as I just espoused, need to be presenting a value proposition which is second to none, which will cause persons, when they're thinking about investing in the Americas, to turn to Grand Bahama as its source. Finally, as an idea around this whole issue of a center of excellence, Grand Bahama and Freeport must be seen not as an operation of that thing over there, run by a few persons with a few thousand people living in and around it. The whole scheme must become a critical part of a national investment planning apparatus. It must not be peripheral, as it appears to be currently. The ultimate purpose of a free zone is to deliver economic gains for a country, not just a few people, not just a single island. The whole country must simply come together and make a decision. How are we going to use this strategic asset that we have for the benefit of the entire Bahamas? Our discourse here is designed to get us thinking about the issues. I'm sure I've not created any brand new ideas, but I'm convinced that through this very simple formula, we can go far and we can win big. One, we must rethink everything. We must not be afraid of being disruptive. We must dream big, and we must focus on the Bahamas and what is best for the Bahamas. Against this backdrop, here are my recommendations. Consider expanding the size of the port area. I understand, I heard the port has been expanded. I mean, putting oodles more of land so that persons can come in and participate in this thing. This will require revisiting agreements and policy documents, but size and scale matters in a competitive environment. If we're seeking to encourage large global businesses, we need to have land resources readily available. If we're seeking to develop incubation farms for local businesses, then land and infrastructure must also be available. The University of the Bahamas must become a critical factor, expand its presence in Grand Bahama, and strategically target offerings and qualifications which align with the ambitions of being a vibrant industrial city. The university, too, must foster the idea of being a center of excellence in research and delivery of courses connected with the strategic trust we are discussing. An idea to design and set up incubation farms based on line of business or technology outside of the port area is something which should be embraced. Targeted business should be supportive of the industrial ambition or be able to benefit directly or indirectly from the spillovers from the port or other industrial concerns. This argument would also hold true for those who want to be engaged in touristic endeavors. but the whole idea is creating and developing business is very critical to this success. We must aggressively move to embrace alternative energy technologies across the whole continuum, from solar to wind farm to hydrothermal technology. What does this do? The idea here is to have strong, viable providers, which result in cost energy being significantly reduced, thereby enhancing the strategic advantage of Grand Bahama. This will require some rethinking, again, of some of the arrangements. I know there's a monopoly of a power company up the road, but as I indicated before, we must be willing to be disruptive in our thinking. The arrangement of Freeport Grand Bahama cannot be simply a transshipment flow-through. To secure strategic strategy goals that we espouse here, we must start thinking about assembly, packaging, product storage, manufacturing, and product classification. In conclusion, I say to you, realizing the Center of Excellence is not easy, but it is possible. The most critical element which we sought to show is that it requires a definitive decision and strategy. If there's going to be a real resurgence in Grand Bahama, there need to be laser-sharp focus on creating value island-wide, not just in the port area, but island-wide. There must be a commitment to taking this strategic asset, which is the port and Grand Bahama, as it currently stands, and unleashing its full potential. Every plan, every strategy, every single thing that we do, consideration must be given to how you impact the entire island, and most importantly, how you impact the entire country. It is possible if we dream big, if we become disruptive, and if we set out strategically to achieve a center of excellence. Thank you very much.
You and Your Money will continue after these messages.
There are actually a few things that make our business unique, but I think one of the most important ones is that we remain local. We remain authentically Bahamian as much as we possibly can. We absolutely use BTC products. We actually didn't think of going anywhere else when we first started our business. We have our BTC phone and we have our BTC internet, and we have had great experiences with them so far. Actually, we just signed up to have our listing in the white pages and the yellow pages as we move from the Palmdale area to Bay Street. So I think BTC is going to be so helpful in getting our customers to find us when we do move and actually find us here now where we are. Buying local, buying from small businesses is just a way of life that we should all adapt. I think that if we kept the money within our country, within our community, we could watch each other thrive, and that is powerful.
Do you have a goal in mind but need help sticking to a savings plan? BOB has a solution for you. Introducing BOB's Goal Assured Savings Plan. You set the goal and we help you achieve it. You'll benefit from structured savings, competitive interest, and special discounts on loans, plus your full amount is insured for the term of your plan. So go ahead, set your goals and achieve them with BOB's Goal Assured Savings Plan. Only at BOB, your bank of solutions.
Welcome back to You and Your Money. And now, a presentation given by Donna Lang Jones, partner and broker, Keys Bahamas Realty, at the recently held 19th Annual Grand Bahama Business Outlook.
Grand Bahama has the potential to be whatever we make it. Now is the time to invest in real estate in the Bahamas. Grand Bahama remains well-positioned in the global arena, just 50 miles from one of the largest economies in the world. Our infrastructure in Grand Bahama is second to none throughout the Bahamas and most of the Caribbean. A stable economy. Notice, I did not say thriving, but our economy, when you compare it globally, we are stable. Our sellers are more negotiable than they have been in many years. With our high inventory, buyers have more properties to choose from than they've had in years. Prices are the lowest that they have been in decades. The prime rate has recently decreased, meaning buyers can expect lower interest rates and lower monthly payments on existing mortgages. Many distressed properties are being sold at bottom prices. Hence, more persons are able to become homeowners and also have less debt. It's safe to say that right now in Grand Bahama, anyone has the potential to become a real estate investor. Bahamian, foreign, young, old, anyone. That's the amount of potential we have on Grand Bahama. The bad news is, when we look at what Grand Bahama used to be, Freeport's magical past compared to our present state, I reached out to several real estate industry partners. Those included other real estate agents, lawyers, bankers, current and past clients, Bahamians, expats, business people, and local residents. It would be misleading to suggest that things are going great. Just about everyone agreed with me on the potential of Grand Bahama, but the current state is sad. Fortunately, they did give a few suggestions that I'd like to share. One, and Mr. Christie left before I had a chance to speak. The government should reduce the requirement for the permanent residency status on Grand Bahama to encourage foreign persons to invest in Grand Bahama. Number two, all agents working in Freeport and the Bahamas should be licensed by the Bahamas Real Estate Association, or BREA. Right now, there are persons working around as agents, giving incorrect information and without a true governing body to be held accountable. You have persons that have collected monies from buyers, and those buyers think that they are purchasing properties when that agent has no right at all to sell. Number three, it should be mandatory for a BREA certified local realtor to be a part of every real estate transaction in a development. Number four, banks must be more flexible. We need to give our people a chance. Our buyers do not have 20 or 30% down payment to purchase a property. We need to get single mothers and young couples in their first home. We need to work with them and give them a chance. There are a few banks that are dropping the down payment requirement, but the vast majority are not. We cannot compare to the consumer in Nassau, Abaco, or Eleuthera. We need the Grand Bahama Port Authority and Grand Bahama Development Company to reduce those astronomical service charges being levied on the consumer. Why should a lot in Lincoln Green or Darby be subject to a $600 or $700 a year service charge? We have sellers that call us all the time asking us to list those lots because they can no longer pay the service charges and they do not want to be foreclosed on. Number six, we need to do something for those owners who were sold lots in Lucaya Estates. There's been no infrastructure in over 50 years except for the University of the Bahamas campus. No power, no water, no paved roads, no street signs. Those buyers were sold a dream. As far as local agents are concerned, those lots have no value. Lucaya Glen is a little better. Some of those lots have power, some of those lots have water. To sum up the bad, there is a lot of work to be done in Grand Bahama, and a lot of this is under the control of those in Grand Bahama. We have the potential to be so much more. Even with all of the potential on this island, we are losing out to other islands and other island nations. We are not competing because we cannot compete. Our company, Keys Bahamas Realty, is a part of a global network of independent luxury brokerage called Luxury Portfolio International. I'm talking companies that's selling billions of real estate every year. Billions, not millions. My partner, Kiara, my daughter, and I went to Luxury Portfolios Conference in Miami last week. At that conference, there were over 1,300 brokers and agents from over 25 countries represented. And of course, you know, this was a nice conference. Workshops and all events fully catered, champagne every night. It is what you would have expected when you hear luxury portfolio. We were rubbing shoulders and hanging out with agents who represented and sold the most expensive properties in the U.S. It was so exciting to be around all of this energy and to learn from them, but also to teach them what we know. But what was really amazing was the amount of excitement, the joy that you would see on the other agents' faces when we would say, we're from the Bahamas. It's amazing. The next thing that came out of their mouths, the Bahamas. I love Abaco. Hopetown is so relaxing. I have a house on Green Turtle. I love Exuma. The swimming pigs are awesome. Bimini is great. I was just in Staniel Key last week. Grand Bahama or Freeport were nowhere on anyone's radar. Keep in mind, a large sum of those persons were also from Miami. American Airlines flight to Miami from Freeport is 20 minutes at a cost of $309, and that's facts. It took us longer to get from Miami International Airport to the Fontainebleau Hotel, where the conference was held, than it took for us to fly from Freeport to Miami. But we're not on their radar, or anyone's radar. Kiara met the purchaser of one of the most expensive sales ever sold in Abaco, and Grand Bahama was not on their radar either. A local agent has already this year lost 3 sales to Abaco, and we're only in the 3rd month. Kiara met another agent whose client's budget is up to $5 million for a vacation home in the Bahamas. The only requirement that they have is that they have a canal long enough to hold and accommodate an 85-foot yacht. You tell me why the only destination that agent had for that buyer was Exuma. Freeport is a fraction of the price, but the people who need to know about it, they don't know anything about us. Now, my girl is a seller. She gave them the rundown on Grand Bahama and Freeport and why that agent would be crazy not to bring that buyer to Grand Bahama. Kiara is meeting that buyer and agent in Exuma in May and bringing them to Grand Bahama. Please tell her I have to be on that trip. We as agents work day in and day out to try and put Grand Bahama on the map, but we can't do it alone. We need our government to shine a light on Grand Bahama and stop pushing everything to Nassau. We need the Grand Bahama Port Authority and Grand Bahama Development Company to do what their mission says they were supposed to be doing: developing, bringing in investors, breathing life into Grand Bahama. And these Investment Act changes are not helping us. They're not helping our clients either. In closing, I'd like to leave you with this. Investing in real estate is not a sprint. It's about the long run. You have to have the vision to see past a few broken tiles, a leaking roof. You have to see what could be and manage it wisely. Make it work for you. Get advice in areas where you are not the expert. Ask the so-called obvious, because that obvious could save you tens of thousands of dollars in the long run, and that's what we look at in real estate, the long game. Real estate is not a get-rich scheme to invest cash in and buy a new car. Real estate builds wealth and creates fortunes. It's the safe bet. And when managed properly, that potential is endless.
And that concludes tonight's show. Join us next week for another informative edition of You and Your Money.